Welcome again, Mr. Theo, to the Jill Butler Experience. So excited to have you back on. And I know we had discussed at your gathering that we were going to do another one of these to talk post gathering about all of our thoughts and your thoughts and many other things. So I'm going to just throw it right over to you to start off and let me know your like after a couple of weeks have gone by now, what have you gathered about it all?
Well, first off, hola, hermana. Thank you for having me back. It's so nice to be in your space, in outer space and inner space where they meet. And yeah, it's been a really cool journey. I'm in much better shape this year than I was last year at this time. I'm feeling really grounded, integrated, and very thankful for all the help post event. Like last year, I was fried. I was totally fried and just wanted everyone to leave me alone.
Oh, shoot.
I'm in much better shape this year. I did, there was a kind of some different waves. There was this funny experience where I was like, because Sunday rolls around and, the event's coming to a close. And then Monday, there's like 30 people here still, and I'm feeding everyone. And it's fun. We're having fun. We're hanging out. We're vibing. Tuesday, there's like 20 people. Wednesday, there's like 15 people. And it's like Thursday, it's like, okay, there's like still 10 people here. And I was just like, okay, I think I'm ready for everyone just to go ahead and leave now. And I remedied that by leaving myself and going to another event where I performed at event called Moon Bloom, which is really cool, and we could talk about that. Um, but then when I was alone finally after that next weekend, and I was back at my home by myself, but my first time when I'm here by myself, I had a little panic attack, and I'm like, I'm alone. I missed everybody. Where did everyone go? So it's just so funny to push everyone away and then also to still kind of want that and just to kind of laugh at myself a little bit.
Yeah, that's intense. I mean, that's a lot. You had like a lot of people around and a lot of people you were connecting with. And I felt like I always feel this about you, and I love this about you, is I feel like you're very, very present with people. So it doesn't matter if you're like in a group of 5 or 10 or 20, like I feel that you're very like sunk in and synced in with everybody on such a level. And it's crazy because I don't know, like I wanted to ask you, how many people do you think came all together for the whole entire event?
I think with day passes, we had about 300 people.
That would have been roughly what I guessed.
Well,
But I don't know. It was my goodness, like so many things. But like once again, I thought that you were like really tapped into everybody. Whenever you talk to people and you're walking around, I felt that sense of you tapping in. And what did you feel like worked really, really good this year in difference to last year? Like what are your home runs?
um, I was able to delegate more and to invite people into helping out with different things and to like there's like some words that I'll use, like authorize people to like manage a certain space and like watch them come alive in that. And like now that's off my chest. They're enjoying their responsibility. Everyone's better because of it. So I had a really positive experience with the process of delegation. Also, oh my God, I need to do so much more because anytime, like, I didn't get to do any workshops or any sweat lodges and was a little bit more stressed out than I meant to be. And that to me, that's not really a full success. That means I still have room to grow into asking for more help, because when you ask for help correctly from the right people in the right way, you're ultimately giving the gift because people love helping. And
So
that there's
true.
a lot to that. There's a whole dissertation around that, what that means to ask for help correctly or whatever. But yeah, I need to learn to ask for help more. And I'm working on that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think there was like I felt like I think we talked about this in the first podcast. There was like I felt like a different divine feminine flow, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
I felt that, which was interesting. I felt much more of the indigenous presence, and that might have been because I was spending most of my time there,
Hmm.
working with Pete and Camille.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was like, that to me was like such a next level experience, because being like a firekeeper is something I've never done, and I've done a lot of sweats.
Mhm.
So that was amazing. Like that, I thought that the sweats and all of that was just next level. And I felt like there's just so many interesting things that happened around that. And um I don't even know if I got a chance to tell you, but at one point me and Camille and her husband were trying to get the fire going for the female sweat, and we couldn't get it going. And like we were like so bummed because like the some of the wood was wet. And but I just felt like so frustrated because sometimes I can start fires with my energy, you know,
Yeah.
and I have that ability to do that. And so like literally I was working on the fire, Camille and then John were like chanting into the fire because I'm like, why don't we do some songs?
Wow.
So we were like chanting into the fire,
Yeah.
can't get it to start. And then finally, I was like so frustrated. And I know they felt bad because they knew that I was like, we should be able to do this. Like, there's three of us, power of three. Like, there's all these elements that were like, this should be happening. Like, what's going on? So I walked away, and like literally within 10 minutes, we had that like monsoon. And I was like, oh my God, like, I get it. Like, this is the reason why it wasn't allowed to
Oh,
start.
on
Like, we
Saturday.
had to
Yeah.
have we had to clean the land before we could have the female goddesses come and do the sweat. So
Wow.
like that whole area had to be clean. So like I went up to Camille after and I was like, "Oh my God, I figured it out." She's like, "What?" I'm like, "The land had to be cleaned. That's why it wasn't going to start for us. Because as soon as we came back, we got a little bit of wood, but then everything we did just immediately started the fire."
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting because it's like, oh, that was quite an event. Talking about Saturday, the the monsoon, tornado warning, et cetera, et cetera. With small hail and large hail not too far from here. And we lost power for 6 hours that night during peak programming on Saturday night, the big night, and managed to pull it off without a hitch using generators and the resourcefulness of our community. Really powerful experience. And you're right. It's like sometimes we're there. Like, why isn't this working? Like, aren't we trying hard enough? Don't aren't we praying hard enough? Like, are we
Yes.
singing the song wrong or something like that? Like banging our head against it, taking it personally. And that's just a reminder. It's just like, just chill out, take it easy.
Not in our control.
Just like let and like, and then also witness and experience the environment and let it speak. Because even if you had that success of getting the fire started and then it got rained out, that would have been such a bummer. It would have been like even more confusing.
Exactly. And it was just so funny to me because I know that Camille was like nervous and excited because it was her first time like running her own sweat. And so like there was so much like energy already of like anticipation of this story. And then like it was my first time that I was like doing something like important. So there was already so much energy built up. And then that happened. But then it was so clear to me after. I was like, oh my goodness, like once again, a lesson from the earth. Like the earth is like, all right, like we'll do this when I'm ready. Like this is the earth. This is the earth. These are the earth elements. Like who do you think you are? Like you can't manipulate us. Like
Right.
we're in charge. And I was like, ah, dang, like you're right. Like sorry
Well,
that like I got ahead of myself.
so you were having that experience and I was having a very different experience, but mine was not that different really at all because I was firing up the sound system. We were going to get our first acts going. It was like the beginning of programming for Saturday. And then the monsoon came and we're scrambling to put all the gear away. And we've got $20,000 worth of gear out being vulnerable and the rain's coming in sideways. And it's just like kind of fun and kind of scary. And like, are we going to get killed by lightning or whatever? And just like, here we are having a moment, a human experience. And I've had enough of these to at least keep a sense of humor. So I'm kind of laughing at myself. And then a bunch of us kind of pile into the house here. And I really I'm proud of myself that in spite of some of the challenges, because I feel like I really want it to go right so much. And sometimes I'm attached to what that looks like, what right is. And then I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna get bummed about this. Like I grabbed my guitar, we started jamming, and then I started playing the CCR song. Have you ever seen the rain? It's
Mm,
like, have you ever
yeah.
seen the rain on a sunny day? And
That's
as for
such a good
everyone's
song.
singing it in here, and then the sun comes out, it's like still
Oh,
raining, but then it's like the sun shining, and it just like total vibe shift. and it was only like half an hour of torrential rain. And then I come out of the house and I'm just like, let's go. Ah, like you can't stop us. Like, you know what I mean? Just like kind of irie and really we the things that we overcame together as a community to make this event successful speaks more than any of the other stuff, because it's not about can you have fun when everything's going right. That's a muscle that people are already used to exploring.
Right.
We're exploring new muscles. We're exploring resiliency, teamwork, and triumph over adversity, and adapting and pivoting to challenges.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because like when you think about that, Theo, like that storm could have number one been a tornado that could have hit your property.
Yeah,
Number
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Number two, it could have been a rain for like hours and hours and hours. And that rain was literally, like you said, like 30 minutes, like 30 minutes of like everyone just has to figure themselves out and like understand that it's going to pass.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because me and Jessie and her friend and Chloe and this other little girl, we were like literally walking. So we were like almost near the bathrooms and we were nowhere near our tents. And so we ended up getting refuge from a friend's tent and they had like an overhang tent. So we like stood under that and then Chloe got terrified and she started screaming and crying like bloody murder because she thought we were all going to die. And so it was I'm having a mental block of her name, the one that sings all the folk songs and gets
Faye,
everybody to sing.
Faye.
Faye. So it
Yeah.
was Faye's tent and her partner, our friend's tent. And so it was so cool because they brought the girls inside the tent and they started singing to them. And so they calmed them down by
Oh,
singing to them.
oh.
So me and Jaren um were sitting outside of the tent, holding the tent and everything down so it didn't blow away. And so the rain is like hitting us, and we're like the protectors of the tent, you know? So we're like outside of the tent holding the tent. He's got like one side, I got like the other side. And I'm not like afraid of all the elements. Like I am the elements. Like I'm not ever afraid of them. So I'm
Right.
just standing there like, wow, this is really intense. And he's just looking like, oh my God, like he was looking like, what's gonna happen next? And I was like, oh, this is gonna pass. And then it was so cool. He has a picture of it, and I gotta get it. I'll send it to you. There was a point when it, like you said, when the sun came out, and we were in just the right spot, Theo, that we could see the sun coming through the clouds. It looked so angelic. It
Yeah.
was like the most beautiful picture.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God, my I don't have my phone. Can you get your phone?" And he took like snapshots of it, but it was like so amazing, like a beautiful like sun piercing through.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Epic,
"Yeah,
epic
that's
moment. That after that rain, that was like that did have a very heavenly feel to it, and like we just picked right up, and that women's sweat was so interesting. um I could feel it, like we could all feel it from far, far away. Like there was like this mist that had settled in the valley that night, and like all of it together was just whoa, like holy geez. The dinner
yeah,
that
it
we
was
made, the
intense."
music, it was, yeah, even better than I could have planned or imagined. It's almost like when Prince played the halftime show at the Super Bowl and he got like rained on, and he's like, all right, God, thanks. Thanks for the effects. Like I'm gonna go out and do this now. And like, you know, it became a celebratory vibe where we had because of the trial, and then the way that we handled it became something that kind of amplified the beauty of the situation. Instead of muffling it, it amplified it.
Yeah, for sure. Also a thing that was really striking that I think is a home run for sure is you having those comics. They were super funny. I loved the gray hair gentleman. What was his name?
Uncle Rodney Norman. Yeah.
Oh, I loved him. I laughed so hard from his sketch. I was like dying. I was like, this guy is great. I like went up to him right away after. I was like, you are so funny. I'm like, thank you so much. I laughed so hard. I just
He's
thought that
the
was so
bomb. Had you heard of him before or ever seen him
perfect.
perform? Okay.
No, no. I hadn't heard of him before.
I found him on social media like any other weirdo would do and just be like, I'm gonna follow this dude and then like his stuff. And then when Lionsgate started getting some momentum back in the early summer, I saw Matthew Silver, who was already slated to perform at Lionsgate, performing with Rodney. And I said, hey, tell Rodney to come to Lionsgate. And then Matthew responded something like, okay, or something like that. So then I sent Rodney a message, and I wasn't sure what to expect because Rodney plays a character in his comedy that if you go on to his Instagram, you'll see there's this certain character. And I wasn't sure where he began and the character ended because I'd only ever seen the character of Rodney. But yeah, we started interacting, and then eventually he was like, yeah, I'm on board. But our interactions were very limited. And then he showed up at Lionsgate on Thursday, right during the opening ceremony, or sorry, Friday at the opening ceremony. And there was this thing where, were you there for the opening ceremony?
Uh-huh. I was there for the opening.
So you remember when they paired us off with people, when
Yes.
Adele paired us off with people, I got paired off with Rodney, and I just literally met him in this moment. I was just like, "What's up?" I've been like stalking you on Instagram for 6 months or a year, and the sun was once again coming through behind him and highlighting his Gandalfian hair. It's like,
Oh, he was so funny. Like I just and just when he was like talking about his daughter and he was getting into that sketch with his daughter, I was like, this is so perfect for the times. Like I love that about comedians and their sketches is because they always like do like a cross section of like what's going on like in the world. And I just thought it was just so cute and funny and appropriate to the times of like
that's
all the gender
funny.
stuff and the gender issues and all that. Like it just was really it was striking for sure.
I'm glad that you enjoyed that because there were definitely people that I'm very much aware of that were deeply offended by that.
Really?
Yeah, by that sketch. And then every sketch offended someone throughout the weekend. Everyone was, kids were crying. This happened, that happened. It got really hairy with one comedian who I will not name, and I love them all. And this is why I stand by my decision to bring them here because it's so important. A, that we can laugh at ourselves. B, that we can talk about everything. And C, that we can own our feelings and emotions and stop asking everyone else to make us feel comfortable and learn to expand our comfort zones.
I think if you're triggered in any way, shape, or form by anything, it means you have work to do. So it doesn't matter if it's a comedic act or not. Like if you're triggered, like, yeah, I mean, there's things that are like certain things you don't expect, and it's like a surprise, maybe a
Right.
surprise, but that's different. Like to be surprised is different than being offended.
But like you said, you have work to do. So let's say that I was walking down the street and someone punched a woman and then I was triggered by that. Now I have work to do. Now I got to punch him in the face, whatever. But there's something to be done about everything like that. It's not
Oh
that
God, Theo, you are
there's
hysterical.
I just mean to say
That's
that
not what
like
I'm talking about, but you are funny for saying it.
like
That's not what I'm talking about.
Well,
I'm
I
talking
think there's
about
there's
just
a little bit
taking
of
things
risk
personal.
around. There's a little bit of risk around like bypassing our humanity with that thought form. Even though I do agree with you, because I think in an even more higher level that we do attract our experiences that are there for us. I had this thought in the bathroom right before the podcast.
Fine.
Was that like basically everything that happens to you in life? It's either what you want or it's what you need. And sometimes
Yes.
what you need is not what you want, and that sucks. You're going to learn from that lesson, and the best thing we can do is to align ourselves with our wants and needs to make them one thing so that life is satisfying us. And that means doing the work to expand your comfort zone, to the self inquiry around your blind spots and what things you're holding on to, that why are you being so triggered around this. There's a lot there.
Yeah. No, yeah. And I mean, I don't think, and I think also you weren't bringing them there to trigger people. You were bringing them there because you find value in whatever, them being comedians. Like it's their job to say outrageous things, and people that understand comedic acts either like it or don't like it for that purpose, for that reason. So, but I thought it was an interesting element. I really liked it. So, you know, I might have liked some more than others, but I appreciated all of that.
yeah, and I won't say any names out of respect for these artists who work incredibly hard on their craft, to be like this set or that set. But there was an instance where one of the comedians one night, in my opinion, kind of bombed, and some kids were crying around it. And then the next day, the same the same comedian came back and just totally, crushed it. And it's like it's one of those art forms that can go either way. Like a musician should be able to hit a bass line or a dancer should be able to hit a bass line every time they perform and be like okay or better than okay or good even or great. Where a
Mhm.
comedian, every time a comedian goes on stage, there's the potential that it could just totally just bomb. And that's a word they use, is, what I mean? So there's a real vulnerable aspect to that craft that I have a deep respect for, that I feel protective over around people that get offended. I'm like, you don't know what they've gone through to get to where they are, and when they might not have the best night for you right now, and you're not feeling good about that, but that's part of the risk that you take when you invite this kind of art into the space. So I'm protective over that, and I'm really thankful that they came and showed up and crushed. And they're some of my favorite people in the world. Every one of those comedians is a friend of mine, and I love them. I stand by their art. And also I got some feedback around how I could be a little bit more appropriate in the realm of like consent, like, because it's at the main stage, in between acts during peak programming, that I could do a little bit more, maybe like have a comedy tent or something like that. But what's come of it even more recently, as of like today, is this idea to have a comedy festival in Ithaca.
Wow, I'd go. That sounds pretty cool.
I've already had some interest around this. When things start self-organizing and things start falling into place, and people are like, sure, I'll do that. That sounds cool. Yeah, that sounds amazing. When that energy starts to follow an idea, that's a hit for me to go ahead, and because that means I'm not going to have to work too hard. All I have to do is make a few phone calls and then put this person with that person. Because I'm not trying to like make money off of this. I'm just trying to like let the magic happen. But it looks like maybe this fall or winter we're going to put something together. It could be like a big night, or it could be a weekend or something like that. Not a camp out, but some indoor stuff. The venue TBA, the comedians to be determined. But it's looking like we're kind of going that way. Is I
Oh,
want
that's
to.
awesome. Well, if you need me to do something for you on that, even if we did another podcast or whatever, let me know. Let me know. I'll definitely volunteer some time for you if you need be, for sure.
Great. I love the conversation around comedy, and would maybe love to do a podcast just about the importance of comedy.
Yeah,
So
I would love that too. I
so
would love that too. Another thing I wanted to mention is, wow, Toby Love. Wow. Like I like saw him at Pyro a couple of years ago when he was touring with a female, and I cannot remember her name. I
Amber,
apologize.
Amber Lily.
Amber Lily. And I thought he was really good, but I really liked the kind of shift of what he's doing now. Like I like this kind of like DJ singing, like mixed media, mixed art. Like I really vibed with that. And like I didn't know what I to expect because I liked him before, but like I felt like this was like a higher next level that I connected with deeper.
Wow.
So I really, out of all the musical acts, like that was like the top of the list for me. Like I really vibed with that. And like I was kind of a little bit tired before, and as soon as he like came on with his energy, I was like, dang, like he has so much energy.
Very special brother, very special, talented brother, musical all the way through, all the way to his bones. You give him a fork and a spoon, he's going to make a beautiful song with it. He can do anything. And yeah, it was interesting. This was his first time playing as superpowers other than Hawaii. This is his first mainland US 48 states playing as superpowers at Lionsgate. Now, this coming weekend, he's at Shangri-La Festival doing it there, and it's going to be even bigger, of course, because that's like 10,000 or something like that. But yeah, this is a really big thing for him, um, coming into himself as a performer, even though he's got so much experience performing, but now as a new project, bringing more of a digital thing, and then the projections and all that stuff. And I was a little nervous because I so deeply love the previous iteration of his art.
You like the more like folky, like
It's folk, it's
acoustic.
reggae, it's hip hop, it's a lot of things. He had the amber component, and he also had a lot of his own stuff. But yeah, they were a thing for a long time, and that's not my story to tell. But the album that he made, his album called Waves, was a Billboard top 10 reggae album. It was a really really good album that I've listened to. I know every song, like you know what I mean. It's like I kind of wanted him to come play that album live and just to get down with that. So when he's like, yeah, I'm doing this new thing, I was like, okay, like I love your art. I want to support you and stuff like that. And it was interesting to see his new iteration, and I love his new thing too. If it's hard for me to untease my love for his previous art with
Because
my
yeah,
acceptance of his.
you had a much more you had a much more deeper connection already than I had. If I had that deep connection, I probably would have felt the same because I love reggae, but I just saw a couple of his songs. So I wasn't like fully invested like you were because I didn't know that much. I wasn't that into him. And not that he was bad. I just, I didn't, it was like at a pyro, event. And so like I
Right.
was listening to so many different music, so much music and so much different acts and stuff like that. So but yeah, I just felt like it was like everybody was jumping. Like it was like it felt like we were at a club. It was
I mean,
like
he
a
crushed it. He did crush it. There's no denying the crushingness of his set, and it was very dynamic and beautiful. There was a lot of piano and singing, and he's got definitely a good feel for a crowd. He's like able to read a crowd and like kind of build an energy with people.
hmm hmm
So yeah, I mean, I tip my hat to this amazing dude, and my feelings on it is nothing more than just deep reverence and respect. And also when you're dealing with something, a new iteration of someone's art, it's like it's kind of there's the acorn, there's the baby tree, and then there's the mighty oak, and you don't want to judge a little baby tree and say, oh, this isn't anything big or strong or powerful. Like all it's missing is a little bit of time and some sunshine and some water. Like I think it could be and it will be. Anything he
Yeah,
does will
I
be
think
great.
I think too, like I'm gonna turn my light on real quick because it's dark. Hold on. Thank you. So I
Let there
think
be light.
yeah, so you could see me because I was like, wow, I'm really looking dark. I should have turned it on before we started, but it was like super light in here. Um, yeah, so I think you could feel if I'm being a little bit vulnerable on the situation, you could feel he's like in his own transition. And so like he's transitioning himself from one big story that was like enveloping him into another. And so
Yeah.
he's kind of in a flux state, but I could still feel like I could feel his intensity of like what's next, and I could also feel his passion for his consciousness and his lyrics,
Yes.
and like the way he put things together when he was doing all the crazy mixing of things. I felt like he has such passion for consciousness and
Oh,
evolution of consciousness, and I really really felt that in that set.
he is a freaking angel that cares so much about people, about the movement, about the medicine. He's got a huge heart. We're both from Georgia. um Southern boys are made a little differently. And
Made a little differently.
he's in it for the right reasons, man. I mean, we've all got egos. The way that he showed up at this event from Thursday night, when he showed up here late night with Mar, who was his ride from the city. We had jams in here and talked and communicated and vibed, and then every interaction we had all the way through the weekend, nothing but love, nothing but respect. And I, as a person, 100% am behind what he's doing. Like, yeah, for sure, totally. He cares a lot, and he's not only caring, he's very equipped. He's very talented musically and energetically. He's an amazing dude. He's a force. I mean, that's why I'm such a huge fan, and that's probably why I care enough to even offer an in-depth review or critique, because I do care so much. Yeah, so I'm glad you liked him. I mean, it,
You're a jamming musician. You jammed out for us quite a bit. I enjoyed that.
I
The last
did,
the
yeah.
last day you jammed out quite a bit.
So I was asking people to step into and create space for a collaborative vibe. Like, hey, let's get each other up on each other's sets and like, like have that kind of like open door policy, not just for any old person to grab the mic, but for people that are ready to like really step into that space. And we had a lot of cross pollination happening, a lot of collaboration happening. I got to point towards Jack Brown's set on Friday night. Were you there for that?
I heard it from somewhere. I wasn't right up there, but I could hear it, but I wasn't right there.
Dude, Jack Brown of Sophistafunk. Oh my God, this guy showed up. I won't even tell you the details of our arrangement or agreement, other than saying he was incredibly generous and believes in the movement, believes in what we're doing here at Lionsgate, and is like really a Jedi master. And I'm just very thankful for him bringing his talent and his good vibes and his support to the space. And like,
Yeah, I've known him for a minute because he's part of the kind of part of the Syracuse scene because he's from, the whole funk and waffle scene.
very,
So
very.
I've known him for a minute. Like I don't know him well, but like I've known him. So yeah, he's doing well for himself. He's doing very well for himself.
He's incredibly intelligent. For anyone that's had the benefit of having a conversation with him. He's very intelligent, and I consider him the Bruce Wayne of Syracuse myself. But came and he wasn't able to bring the band. He wasn't able to bring the band, and I probably couldn't afford him if he could because the band is sick and very successful. But he came by himself, and I was like, all right, we're gonna put together a house band. And then up until the last few days, I'm like, who's gonna play drums? Who's gonna play bass? I don't know. I'm like doing this like so and so didn't get back to me. So and so isn't going to make it, or this person's
So
coming.
who ended up playing in that? Because I wasn't right near it, so I didn't see it.
So I'm glad I got to give a shout out because so Felix Free was the artist before Jack, my boy Felix Free, who
Okay.
is a new guy on the scene, but it's a couple years deep, but he's like really he's going places. He opened for Giant Panda a few weeks ago. He opened for Mattis Yahoo before that, and I'm
Okay.
happy to say that I helped him get his first few shows in Ithaca. I've been, it's not like he doesn't owe me his success, but I feel like I have an eye for people that are really ready. And Felix Free is someone that I am 100% behind and endorsing everything about this beautiful brother. So this is his second year at Lionsgate, our fourth or fifth show together. And he came and he had Ashley Ickes of the Comb Down and Galactic Wednesdays. He had Mike Schuler of so many projects, including Galactic Wednesdays, and then Max Childs of, the Max Childs band as a little three-piece band to back him up. And
Oh
they were
wow.
freaking like these people are like superstar. It was like an all-star jam. And I'm not sure if they've even all practiced together. I know Mike and Ashley had, but and Max has played with them in the past because he's been in other bands with them. But it was kind of a throw together, and they just absolutely crushed. And then after Felix's set, because Felix is like, I got to go back and be with my kids and stuff. He's got a family, and like a 2 hour drive. I was like, hey guys, I was like, Ashley, Mike, and Max, like, how do you guys feel about maybe staying and backing up JP, And they're like, yeah, we could do that. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, so we had this incredible house band. Felix did a little bit. Tubby ended up playing guitar. I played some guitar. We had singers, we had horns. We passed the wireless mic around at the end. Like 10 people got on the mic. It was like a very collaborative. It was like what I was envisioning. And Jack was so graceful with that. And the space that was being held was so supportive that like you couldn't go wrong. If someone gave you a mic, you couldn't mess it up. You just couldn't. You know what I mean?
Aw.
And I think
You're
that's
so
something that,
excited about this. I wish I got to see it up close. Like I could hear it from where I was, but I wasn't up. I was near my tent, so I got to hear it, but I couldn't. Wow, it sounds like it was really, really good.
dude, top 10 most amazing musical moments of my life. And I've had a lot of moments in my life. It was
Wow, that's
incredible.
pretty big for you.
How many people that were able to get in on that magic and co-create it and the vibe that was there? Like just a little snapshot, it's 1 a.m. and I'm looking around in my yard right back here, just like, oh, this is my yard, dude. You know what I mean? We got this beautiful space built. The lights are good. The sound's good. And I just do a little pan. Everyone is smiling ear to ear. Everyone is so fucking happy. You know what I mean? It's just like, if we're not doing something right with that, if everyone being blissed out is not a metric of success, I don't know what is. And it wasn't something where everyone's up there. Half the musicians were on the ground. they were on the same grass that you're on. We're passing the
Mm-hmm.
mic around the group. It was a group experience. It was an elevation of the group. And this is the art that I'm really most excited about exploring, is empowering people as artists and teaching people maybe that aren't ready to step into that maybe they could be ready with a little bit of work, and it's not so far away. Because to me, the real medicine is to stop externalizing the creative force. The creative force lives within us all. And the more that we can cultivate a safe space to explore that and collaborate within that, the more people are going to step into their own creativity, which is really the key that unlocks their own happiness and also what the world needs. So yeah, like I'm definitely I'm doing this for a reason. This is not just like an oops, but yeah, it was really good to see it work out like that. And then other
Well,
artists.
maybe you need to do a little bit more, like step into a little bit more music management. Like I did a little of that in my 20s. Like it's fun. Like it's fun to like bring people together and get gigs and stuff like that. And like you seem like you have the perfect energy for that. But I mean, you got a lot on your plate already, I'm sure. Like I don't need to give you another job.
I'm into it. I think instead of managing an artist, I think that my skill set would be more in events, and curation of events and experiences. That's a little bit more what calls to me, is like, that's like, who's done comedy with music like that or whatever, and like
No, that's that was the first time I've ever experienced that. You know what I mean? Like I've never experienced that at a gathering like that. So I thought that to me, I had told you that in the first video, like that to me was next level. And I didn't think that you oversold that. I think that you delivered that like in a good way, like regardless of any, you're always gonna there's always gonna be somebody that has something to say about something, and that's just life and people. But I thought that you definitely sold that. And I felt like I felt like you were pretty chill. um like when I first got there, you were still doing things, like things were like you were doing stuff with the electrical stuff and whatever, but like it was still like it was pretty chill state.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a lot better this year. I had a lot of help, and some of my closest collaborators got the idea that anyone that's like looking for me, they'd be like, "Where's Theo? I need this." And they're like, "How can I help you?" kind of thing. Because this is a whole nother kind of conversation that I love to have, because I've learned a lot about this, is like, it's really good to be needed. It's really good to be important. I feel like in a way, everyone needs to be needed. Everyone needs to feel important, and we all are needed and important. That's the truth of it.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are not able to feel that way in their lives based on dynamics that have emerged or stories they tell themselves or whatever situation they're in. I, at Lionsgate, got to be the most important person, the most needed person, to a point to where I got my fill and then some. You know what I mean? I'm like, leave me like, if you need something, go ask someone else, kind of thing. So first of all, I'm so thankful that I got to be important and needed to the extent to where I was literally done with that experience, like very
Yeah.
complete. And if I do that once a year, that's enough. That's like going to the well and drinking the waters and filling my camel humps and being full of the fact that I am special and needed and loved and important, and everyone should feel that way. Right.
I,
So
I think I think you did a good job helping other people feel that way too. I feel like there was a lot of people that you gave shout outs to at the end, like when we were all sitting around and talking and stuff, and there was a lot of shout outs given to a lot of people, and a lot of people did do a lot of things, and um those lions burning the effigies, that was a pretty cool story there. And
and you had touched on that earlier about the feminine component of this year's event, is that my ex sweetheart of 5-6 years, and really we've been like in relationship for like almost 10 years now, as or I should say like 8 years, as friends. And whatever capacity, when you love someone a lot, and you start off as lovers, and then you turn into friends, it's still there, it's there. So
mhm,
Eva Van Aken,
yeah.
it's a part of the effigy build. And I was like, yeah, I think we're just gonna build a big lion. She's like, what are you gonna build? I was like, a big lion. She's like, how about the lioness, or how about the feminine? That was her prompt. And I was like, I was like, yeah, It's like, let's do that. And then she countered with, let's do both. And it
And
became both.
I absolutely like when I first got there and I saw that, I was like, the consciousness is definitely changing. Like I saw it like viscerally with the
Yeah.
two of them side by side. And I was like, really, that was like emotional almost to like witness that.
It's an interesting, I call it goo, like when you're swimming in the goo of like a moment or a place or a space. Like we had a certain goo here. And if you had no idea and you walked up, you'd walk up into it and go, whoa, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Looks like everyone's kind of listening to the ladies when they talk, or it looks like kids are safe here, or whatever. It's just kind of a different goo. It's a different agreement. It's a different vibration that we're in. And like we definitely
Yeah.
were able to create that vibration. And for me, the thing around women in leadership, women in creative, directive roles is so important that it's too important to be only talked about. It needs to be carried out. It needs to be, and then when it's their time to do their thing, it's time to listen. You know what I mean? So, and then when you do that, then the art, which was the lion lioness effigy, the process of building the art becomes the initiation that you go through in order to achieve the art. So it has the medicine all the way through it, through the creation.
Yeah, it's like full circle. Like it was powerful. Like and it was like you and her like magnified that. Like you're the lion, she's the lioness. Like I felt like because like because your connection and she helped so much and it just like it was beautiful. Like the that feeling that energy and understanding all of that, being able to see all of that like intuitively and with my eyes was really amazing. Like I was very impressed with that. And then there was just a lot of female elements and a lot of female energy and a lot of female directing things and a lot of female vendors. And it was just, and the indigenous, that element is female already. And then they did a female sweat,
Right.
and so like there was just so much of it and it felt so nourishing and but it also felt very held by the masculine. Like it didn't feel like it was like, oh, there's like an oppressive energy of one thing or another. Like it felt
Right.
very symbiotic and
Right.
very one thing.
Yeah. I agree. Thank you so much for seeing that and pointing that out. And now I feel compelled to honor also really the effigy lead with Eva was Carolyn Lewinberg from Jamaica Plains, Boston. So she was here, and then Hayden was the stage manager. Hayden Eager Holling. She played a set.
I
She did.
love her.
I know she's so
I
amazing.
love her. Me and her, like, we're like birthday sisters. Our birthdays like 2 days apart. Like, I met her last year. I don't know if you knew this, but I met her last year at Nicolette's gathering. And
Okay.
we got kind of close, but I didn't get to talk to her too much at your gathering. I don't know. We missed each other, but we did have a few moments that we got to chat with each other. But I love her.
She's the bomb, dude. Like this is like really the most fun part of the whole thing is like the relationships that come out of it and through it and with it. Because I was on the phone like 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, like every day for the last week or two leading up to Lionsgate. And you get to know people. And like, especially when you're working together to create something, it's like this is part of the thing about the storm or hey, we've got the band's coming on in an hour. We need a new breaker installed in the panel and a new conduit box put right here so we can plug in a thing and run the speakers off of it or whatever. And we're all kind of under pressure. And there's that moment of collaborating to meet the needs of the group or whatever. There's so much magic and bonding that occurs in those spaces that this is like a pressure cooker or a generator for those kind of relationships. So and that to me is really the best part of it all is how much closer I am to my friends. And I feel closer to you through this. That we had our
No,
Lionsgate.
yeah, it's cool because last year, like, we definitely connected last year, but I definitely feel like we took it to the next level this year. And like, I was totally like, feeling and hoping that that was going to happen. And I definitely felt it. I mean, we didn't get a whole lot of time to talk this year, but we did have some good interactions. And I did get to touch base with you different times that I was like looking to. And I want to like give you a personal thank you for like, number one, like letting me help you with the story with the podcast. And number two, for like allowing me to like take my volunteering to the level that I wanted to, because I said to you in the first video, I'm like, I want to definitely work with the indigenous. Like that's the story I want. And like the universe just opened it. It wasn't even like I tried. It was like I met them and it was like, bam, here we go. This is what I'm doing. Like this is all my energy I'm going to give to this whole station here for like 2 3 days. And it was so I loved it. And I felt like I got initiated into the next level of myself because of it. So I have to thank you for that, because that was like, I didn't think that I could do what I did. And like, I pushed myself to another level of myself. I mean,
Yes.
I didn't think I could, lift 20-pound stones with a freaking pitchfork to, you
Yeah.
know, 10 feet away into a sweat lodge. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Hell
was
yeah.
gosh damn, like I can do this. Like, and I didn't even know the Theo, I didn't even know that I could do it until I was pushed to do it. And there's no like
Yeah.
never a Jill Butler
Yeah.
saying no to anything.
Yeah.
So
This is it. What you tapped into. This is really what we're creating more than anything, is this space where you can, safely, but like you said, you were pushed, there's a pressure involved where you can kind of step into new levels of yourself. You're around like what you're capable of doing. And so many of us are doing that, including Camille doing her first sweat. And I want to say that John and Camille, John Lee Rucker and his wife Camille, I'm not sure if her last name is Lee Rucker or what, but they have their own amazing community out in the Hudson Valley called
I'm
Wild Wheat.
I'm going.
You're
I'm
going to their
going
next
to it.
gathering?
I'm going
Great.
to their gathering. It's like in
Yeah.
a week or 2 weeks. I'm going to it and I'm gonna help her again.
They're the bomb. They are the bomb. And Pete Yazzie built I met Pete Yazzie there at their property in their turtle lodge that he built. And I was there at their event. It's called Perma Jams. And they've scaled back because it's during COVID and stuff, they kind of took some years off and they're at their property now, but they have experience in doing events that are similar to Lionsgate, and the alliance that has been formed with John Lee Rucker and Camille is like so incredibly dear to me, and Pete Yazzie and all like and Uncle Fidel Moreno and all the native indigenous thing. It's like ever since, okay, so I got to take the conversation in one more place, at least before we end this podcast, at least, is that last year at Lionsgate, I poured my heart and soul into Lionsgate, and this beautiful man, Fidel Moreno, showed up in my life, who I'd never met before, and became my teacher over the course of the next year. It was almost like I said to the universe, here's what I got. Here's what I'm willing to do. And the universe says, all right, you got that. Well, here's what I got for you. It's like when the
Oh,
student's ready, the teacher will come. That's what it felt like to me, because he came through the portal. He like literally came at Lionsgate and then became
yeah.
my teacher. And it's been an interesting year. We've had all kinds of different things that have been beautiful, rewarding, challenging, expansive, contractive. It's been a whole human experience with this person, who I deeply respect. He's an incredibly powerful person, an incredibly huge heart. So he brought me into the peyote family, and then in the Northeast, and brought me into the teepee, and that's where I met John Lee Rucker finally, and so many others. And it was almost like my investment into the community and into the world. And then the universe was like, that's what you're going to do. Here's what I'm going to do for you. So this year, I kind of went into it a little bit like, well, last year, I worked really hard and gave a lot. And then this is what I got back. I got all this back. I'm like, look how much better my life is after 1 year. And I was like, I'm not trying to be greedy or selfish or do things with the stipulation, but maybe I could lean into trusting that, me pouring my heart and soul into this is going to be reciprocated by the universe. So I went into that. And then even more so, I noticed before, during, and after, the amount of miracles, synchronicities, doors that are opening, new relationships that are in place, financial possibilities, romantic possibilities, work possibilities, creative possibilities, all the vectors of my life that were needing love and attention, that were not quite fulfilled, that were yearning and seeking a little bit more, like little tendrils, like kind of coming out of the ground. The universe was just like, here you go, and just like fed me and just gave me all of these nutritive experiences and relationships. And I'm just feeling so taken care of and provided for. And I don't even want to like tell you about them because it's not about the specifics of that. I think you'll see in time. You'll see these relationships. You'll
Yeah.
see
Well, I can feel from your energy that, that you feel so filled up. And like I feel filled up from my experience. And like I've been talking to me and Pete text almost every day.
oh,
Like
really?
he's like gonna be like one of my besties. Like
Oh, that's so great. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
like we're close. And like I know I'm gonna get closer to Camille too because she's my sister. You know what I mean? Like she's my soul sister.
Yeah.
So it's everything happens exactly as it's supposed to, but you have to reach your hand out and
Yeah.
like you know what I'm saying? Like and one thing I want to say too is you had this is something that I think is like a universal lesson right now that I think people can learn from you in this is you had like this trust factor with all the volunteers because like I don't know how many people technically volunteered for you,
A
but I
lot.
know you offered a lot. No, like I know
About a
personally
hundred. About a
you
hundred.
offered a lot of like discounted partnership where pay for your food or whatever and you volunteer, but you are very loose about all of that. And I feel like because you opened up and you said I trust the universe, I trust the system, I trust my friends, I
Right.
trust, because you simply opened your heart with trust.
Right.
That's why all this is coming back to you,
Right.
because you weren't trying to control it. You weren't
Right.
trying to control people to do what you wanted. You were
Right.
literally saying, I offer you this, be on your honor. Do the best that you can from your heart. And I honestly think, and I know I'm a super passionate person, but I honestly think everyone came through for you because you opened that door to them without control or stipulation. And I think this is such a great way to show everyone on the planet, like, this is how you do it. Like, you say, yes, I need a little something from you. And then you give me what you can give me. And then when you don't have this set of rules and, a book that you have to sign and like all these contracts, and you're just like, okay, you do what you feel guided to do. Look at what happens. You have Jill Butler freaking carrying stones into a sweat lodge. I
Yeah,
mean,
girl.
these kind of things happen.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It's miraculous what happens when you lean into trust. And for me, that ties back into the feminine element, because the masculine element is the one that's controlling and wants to like quantify everything and write everything down and make a contract. And if you violate the contract, this is what happens. And like I honestly just don't have the time or space for that. It's not even like I was trying to make a point. I just literally couldn't, I just like can't. So I had to go deep into trust and deep into the environment, because like, for example, if you schedule this to start at 6 and then 7 and then 8, but then the rain comes and it's like, then you're redoing the whole schedule anyways. So I take a very feminine, breathing, go with the flow approach to these kind of events. And then some people get really triggered by that because they're like, what time am I playing? Like, it needs to be at this time or this, whatever. And I'm just like, that's not really how we're going about it here. It's not like you don't get
But I
green.
think it worked. Like, I
It
think it
worked.
really
It's
worked.
super worked. And like, like, I'm sorry you didn't get green jelly beans in the dressing room or whatever, but you're going to have to get over yourself, because
Jelly bean.
I I'm working so hard. We're all working so hard in service of a movement here, and it's not about you. And if you just want to come make your art and get paid and leave, that's not really the vibe we're going for. We're going for people that get it, that understand what we're doing, that understand the bigger picture here, and the messaging, supports that, the comedy, the music, the artists, the food, everything. So I think all in all, major success. I've got a long list of things that I want to do different and better next year. I'll keep that to myself. I'll just do it and it'll be better next year. But I've heard now you're probably like the 10th or so person who has told me that they've had a very life-changing experience through Lionsgate. And a lot of times it was something along the lines of, I was doing something that was like beyond my comfort zone, and then the rain came and I wasn't sure if I could do it, and then we did it, and it was like, yeah, we did it, and like stuff like that, where there was like a challenge and an adversity, and then they rose to meet the challenge in the moment. And a lot of that was around leadership and relationships. It wasn't just like lone wolf energy, it was like teams.
Yeah.
And things worked out, and there was nothing catastrophic happened. I pretty much broke even. I didn't make it anything other than I created a lot of equity within the community, which is even better than money, way better than money. And in the end, we had an expansive experience. The neighbors still love me. The land's great. Everyone's good. Baby deer is fine. And we're moving forward.
No, yeah. I think you what I talked about with some of the ladies that I sweated with was that space and that sweat, the female sweat. Like we talked about like how we opened a portal, and that portal is opened on your land, and it's a very tangible story that's going to grow and evolve. And I feel like there's a sacred blessing that came from that sweat to your
Yeah.
land, to you. And I feel like it's going to be paid back many, many fold to you. And it's going to continue to pay you back. And I think that you're going to realize it as time goes on. And I'm gonna witness it, and I'm gonna remind you every year, and every time I see you, remember what I told you. Because I personally felt a huge shift within myself. And I mean, I go through shifts a lot, but this was like a different kind of shift for me. And I felt like I had affirmation by many sisters in that sweat. And I felt like my ancestors assisted me to assist that sweat. And there was things that were going on that you can't see, that are way, way beyond human experience, that I felt in that story.
I felt it
So
too, Jill. From way over here, I was doing the music, but I would look back there and there was the mist, and I could hear the drumming and the singing. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, that's kind of the main stage and the main event right now. This is like what's happening. And then Chef Cody kept on saying, all right, we're going to put this food aside for the women in the sweat. Going to put the food aside for the women in the sweat. Make sure there's always food for them when they come out. And then, so we were like holding you in our consciousness. And it was like a thing that was like present, even though we weren't there. And then when all of you came out and you were all just like levitating in your beauty and goddess energy, and it infiltrated the group again and reintegrated into our other thing. And then it was like, whoa, again, it was even more,
I
so
I asked Camille to take a picture of the two of us right after, and it was like dark, but you could still see us.
yeah,
And I put that picture that's on my Facebook profile, and I just didn't ever want to forget that. And that was so cool because when we all came out of the sweat, all the women just like stripped down, and we went right into the creek.
yeah,
And it was just like it was so like ancient. It was so like tribal. Like it was just, it was something like out of a movie.
yeah.
Like it's never going to leave my consciousness, that experience. And that is just one experience that happened there. But I mean, you do need to be commended for holding that space and being in that trust, because you can say all you want, well, I didn't have the time or the manpower to create all these control systems. But you know what? Bottom line, you surrendered. And guess what? You surrendered, and the universe surrendered back to you. And look what we all experienced out of that. To me, that is the next level. That's a transcendental experience for 300 people. I mean, that all those people and all those tendrils, as you say, all those, channels of energy gone back out into the planet to do their work, and they all have that experience to throw out to everybody they meet. And it
Yeah.
just keeps going and going and going and gets paid forward and forward and forward, and it
Right.
never stops. And
Right.
that's how energy works. It
Right.
never dies. And it's
That is
just
a good
amazing.
reminder. When you have 300 people at an event like this, it's not like, okay, so we helped 300 people. okay, well, you could say that's significant or insignificant or however way you want to look at it. But then when you think of the people that were here, people like yourself, people like Camille, people like John Lee Rucker, people that are hosting events and curating spaces and broadcasting the message. And we have like this is like a festival and a camp out of change makers. You know,
Oh, and like I met people like Army. Like Army's coming on soon. He's gonna be coming on my podcast in like a week or two.
I'm gonna be there, dude. Yes.
Army is coming on my podcast, and we are going to have a sit down. We are going to talk, and me and him have been in contact. We've been contacting each other off and
You're
on.
blowing
So
my mind right now. Like I had no idea that you were following up so hard
I
with the
am,
Germany
all
shit.
these things that happen are just going to be pushed further on and further on and further on. But Army is such a powerful experience. Do you know
Oh
when
yes.
I walked in, I saw him and I said to him, you're going to laugh. I said to him, don't you worry. Me and you are going to talk before this is over. And the last day, and the last day, we sat at the table across from the food truck, and he sat on one side, and I was over here. And I said, I'm getting to you. And I walked over there, and I sit next to him, and we just like went through it. We just like talked like it was heavy, and he had like all these people like coming around the table, and
Yeah.
everybody was like, he's like, yes, I'm not really anybody. And you're like, you're a freaking oracle. Knock off
Yeah,
your,
right.
I
Yeah,
see you,
right.
dude. Like, I see you. I'm next to you. We're doing this. Like, stop playing.
He
But
has got
he's,
some stories, man. He's got a story. He's an incredible person. His energy, as you probably realized very quickly, is very special. And when he's coming at you with information that's coming from some very powerful experiences, it's very integrated into his beingness. You know, he's not talking to you from his head. He's like coming straight from his heart and his body. And yeah, amazing dude. And I'm so glad. I gotta think. Yeah, we gotta shout out to Army, his son Armaine,
oh, and that whole group, like,
dude,
I just blasted
Takuma.
them. I blasted them with light. Like, I went up to each and every one of them at one point or another. And I was like, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Like, I felt so honored and blessed that they came and they showed up for their culture in an event like that that is predominantly white, let's be truthful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like they showed up and they're a bunch of vegans. Like, come on. Like, I was like blown away. I'm like, you guys are amazing. I'm like, the food that you prepare is amazing. And they're just out of their element, and they just embraced it. Like, they're city folk. Like, those guys are from the city, and they were like
Trenton, New
hanging
Jersey.
with us.
Trenton, New Jersey. And they came
Yeah,
all the way out here. That was their maiden voyage with their food truck. Yeah, that was a really big deal for them.
I
And
know.
they crushed it, and we bonded, and a lot of doors opened for me. You know, the spirit of inclusion is so big and so deep around like, what does inclusion mean? Well, I think ultimately we want to have like all the colors of the rainbow here. We want like every nation, every gender,
Yeah,
every
exactly.
aspect of humanity is welcome, at least. And if they choose to come or not, that's up to them. You know, it's not
Right,
mandatory.
right.
But the next level of inclusion is, to me, it's not a performance. You don't invite people of color or whatever to your thing so you can have optics. That
No.
is even more fucked up than not having them, in
Yeah.
my opinion. And they people of color, we've had this conversation. I already know that this is how they feel, and not to say everyone feels this way, but just to say this is the thing. It's not a performance. It's not for you to put a badge on and say, look, people came to my event that were this or that. These are relationships that you maintain throughout the year. These are your friends. This is your family. You grow your family, and then you invite your family, and then your family comes, and then you have an amazing time. So this is a really dear part of it for me, because I got to know them through the experience. I've known Army for like 5 years now, but the rest of the crew is kind of new to me. But we're in touch, and so, anyways, I just want to say that part of it to me. Thank you for acknowledging that and saying that. It's so dear to me, and what I feel in kind of the woke culture is this emphasis on optics and on coming across a certain way. And to me, it's so much more than that.
Oh yeah, no, and I was like, I just, I think next time, next year, it'll be more mingling because I feel like their energy was just like it
Yeah,
was so new to them. It wasn't
yeah,
like that they had any aversion to it.
yeah,
It just was like an out of body
yeah,
experience for them. Like they weren't used to like all these kind of elements. And so
yeah,
next year they're going to be like ready for it. They're going to be like partying. Trust you me, I'm going to be like dragging them out to the
yeah,
music and stuff. And
yeah.
I'll
On Friday night, I saw him hanging out over there at the food truck, and then Saturday, like when the DJ Namin came on, they started kind of shuffling over, and I was like, oh, what's up? Like you're over here now, and then they were like kind of like holding their cup and like, yeah, all right, I see what you're doing here. There was like definitely a moment where they kind of started to explore more further away from their space and come into our space and the space, and it was really beautiful. That was a really special moment for me and for them, um and Army commented on that after the fact. He used the word, this is boundary breaking.
yes,
um
yes,
it was very
yes,
boundary breaking for all of us.
yes,
um that's like
yes.
that's a really great way to describe an event. Even more so, like fun is cool, like uplifting, positive, whatever, like all that, those are nice words, but like boundary breaking to me is like
And
that.
another thing that I think we should mention before we break or before we leave is like the element of like the fact that there was like no real substances at all being used. Like to me, like having no alcohol, no drugs, like having people have that much relaxation and freedom and happiness and bliss without substances, it just lets people know like it can be done. Like people are so like concerned with having events if they can't have these things, these elements.
Right.
I think this shows you once again that those things are not needed.
Sobriety is an interesting conversation. I'm very compassionate to the conversation, especially in events, because a lot of people's desire for mind changers, as some would call them, is around social anxiety. It's around social anxiety. So
Mm-hmm.
like events, there's a time people tend to indulge or whatever. And I've got a long history of that. My story with mind changers, is really, it's interesting. I got a late start. I never did anything until I was out of high school. I didn't drink or smoke or do drugs or anything. And then I like did a bunch of it real fast and like went really deep into psychedelia, like really deep into psychedelia. And then kind of had all these experiences like, oh my God, this, that, and the other. And then now I'm trying to like find myself as a person again, and as a sensitive person, as a very sensitive person. I was
Well,
always,
and I do think there's like medicinal benefits out of some things. Like I'm not here to discount like mushrooms. Like I know that mushrooms have like opened a lot of people's hearts, and I feel like in the right circumstances, in the right amounts, there's nothing wrong. Like I'm not demonizing any of those things, or even marijuana too, like to certain levels, to certain extents. Like I think everything, if you can be moderate, is okay relatively, certain a lot of things. But I also feel like there's something to say for like what kind of breakthroughs can you have through music? What
yeah.
kind of breakthroughs can you have through community? What kind of breakthroughs can you have through conversation? Like, I feel like these are like next level breakthroughs. Like those other things are like, yeah, like you can use things for anxiety, and you can use things for, the depression, and you can use things for these issues that people have. But like, I believe if you do the work and you go deeper, you don't need those things. Yeah, maybe you want to do those things on occasion. And, you came here to be human. So having a human experience, enjoy things. But I'm just saying, like, to have a space like that, it's very comforting for me to see that because I feel like that's also an evolution of consciousness that was taking place on your property.
Absolutely. It is a very safe space. It's a space where sobriety is heavily celebrated and preferred and endorsed and practiced. I was really happy to be sober, throughout the event and to feed off of the energy of it and wake up feeling great every day. I mean, dehydration occurs with or without intoxicants. So that was like a having water. And I last year I had a zero or a substance free policy, and that ended up kind of coming back to me because people like smelled weed and they were like, I want a refund or whatever. I smelled weed.
What?
Yeah, that
Wow.
happened last year. So I'm this is why I'm a little bit more hesitant now with the conversation, a little more understanding. And the thing that I want to emphasize here
Okay.
around this is around let your behavior be good and beautiful and safe and consensual, and like let your behavior speak. And if you want to partake in something, please be responsible. Where and to me sobriety is so much more than, because we're all like pounding coffee, or like all of us we're pounding coffee and we're like smoking cigarettes and it's like weeds going around or whatever. And it's like I'm not trying to like police people. That's I don't I get zero. I get off on that zero. I hate that kind of stuff. What I'd
Sure.
rather do is just encourage everyone and create a space where we can all feel safe to be ourselves, to be vulnerable. Because when there's like a heavy drinking party, like I've been to lots of these, I've thrown them, people start to get rowdy, and then people get like kind of spiteful and the jokes get a little bit more this way or that way. And then people start to kind of like close off and the conversation starts to shift. And then now it's not really a creative space anymore. It's a place people are on guard. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to create a safe space. And alcohol is probably the one that fucks that up the most. Other things can fuck that up too. And you can even fuck that up without being on anything by being a dick. You know, so it's around sobriety for me means around being honest with yourself. It means around being vulnerable and making decisions that are aligned with your center. So tomorrow you're gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, yeah, I'm glad that I did that. Like I kissed that girl sober. So now I'm seeing her tomorrow and I'm like,
Well, and I think too, you know what I think it does? When you have a 2 or 3 day experience where you're not on anything, I think what it can do at the least is give you a standpoint of like, wow, I did this amount of time. Maybe I could do this for a month. Maybe I could do this for 6 months. Maybe I could do this forever. Like it gives you a jumping off point, if nothing else.
yeah,
If you go into it and you truly say, okay, I'm going to do nothing, and some people just live that way. Like I live that way. Like, and I'm not saying I don't do anything. Like on occasion, I'll do some mushrooms or something like that. But generally speaking, I'm completely drug free. And do I partake in coffee or cacao? Yes, I do. I do partake in those things. But I feel like there's something to say. There's just a whole nother level of learning that you can learn about yourself and about your journey.
oh, your mic, Joe. Your mic. Check your mic. There
Oh,
you go.
there it goes. I don't know how I got muted.
That's weird.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You
Are
can
you
hear me
muted
now?
too?
I shouldn't be muted. No, I'm not muted. Can you hear me?
What's going on?
That was
I
weird.
can't hear you. It's so weird.
That was weird.
What is happening?
I can hear you now.
Somebody's listening and messing with us. It's getting too real.
Yeah. Um, we could end it.
Yeah, let's end it. We'll just end it. I'm sorry.
Don't be.
I love you, friend. Bye.